Bankole Odusanya is the head of fixed income traded at UBA. He's joining us from FMDQ Exchange Place to have this conversation this Friday about how the trading week had gone. But first, let's chat today's Bankole. Good morning.
Good morning, Boston.
Thank you. Give us a few seconds, or about a minute, of this conversation, trying to understand how the Nigerian treasuries market work. There was a newspaper report yesterday that the central bank has banned individuals from investing in treasury bills. A number of folks asked me some questions on social media, on Twitter, trying to understand if that directive is really true, how does it work, and what have you. Could you please just break it down for us?
Yeah, thank you, Boston. I'd like to use the opportunity to tell you that statement by that media house was not correct. I believe it was a misconception of earlier communique issued by the central bank. The restriction is limited just to OMO securities. Nigerian Treasury bills, as issued by the Debt Management Office, is open for all individuals, banks, PFAs, other non-banking financial institutions, and even foreign portfolio investors. DMO and central bank issues instruments for different purposes, like we know, and then the central bank has limited the participation of non-banking financial institutions and individuals from the OMO securities only. The NTB is still free for all, and the next auction will be on Wednesday.
A quick one. When we say both OMO and Nigerian treasury bills are called, or NTBs are called treasury bills. So what is OMO?
Open market operations. These are securities issued simply for the reason of mopping excess liquidity. It's the prerogative of the central bank and does not form part of the monies being used to fund the budget deficit. The Debt Management Office issues its own securities that we call Nigerian Treasury bills to fund the budget deficit. I mean, let me just break it down. If the Nigerian budget was to be 10 trillion and we propose or plan to raise a revenue of 6 trillion, there'll be a gap of 4 trillion. We can raise bonds via the DMO and Nigerian Treasury bills still via the DMO, and then raise some of that gap from the foreign market through euro bonds. So this does not form part of what the central bank issues. Their OMO securities are simply to mop up excess liquidity or to create liquidity, as the case may be sometimes.
So the NTB, which is Nigerian Treasury bills, which is also called treasury bills, issued by the central bank of the DMO, still available for individuals, ordinary Nigerians, retail investors, and local corporates to buy, to invest in.
Yes, okay. And the auction is on next week, Wednesday.
Next week, Wednesday. But the open market operations, as you said, is the treasury bills or liquidity management that the central bank issues to institutions which involve like UBA that you invest in.
Yes, sir. Limited to banks and foreign portfolio investors for now.
Okay, so therefore, folks who are listening to this and all of that can still be ready for next week NTB.
Yes, sir. They are free
do we have a calendar of what this issuance will be and all of that? Could you explain what the tenor is when they are rolled out by the central bank on behalf of the DMO?
Yes, they are issued in tranches of 91 days treasury bills, 182 and 364 days treasury bills. The rate of the last NTB dropped to 11.5 from 12.95. The rates are dropping simply because of the non-restrictive nature of those instruments. We expect this to continue next week. We expect the rate to drop even sub 11 at discount. The effective will then be at, let's say, 12%. That is subject to demand and supply anyway. 3 tranches are issued by the Debt Management Office. Of course, you can apply for these bills through your banks or your brokers, basically.
So the open market operations how is the money raised, this liquidity money, how is it retired between the central bank and you, who are deposit money banks and other licensed operators in the market? Who handles
Yeah, the
that?
central bank issues OMO on Thursdays usually. There was a period when we had excess liquidity. The central bank would come in at least 3 to 4 times a week, and those treasury bills usually matured on Thursday. But we've seen that in order to dichotomize between the NTB and the OMO securities, the central bank has issued some OMO bills that will mature on Tuesdays right now, such that we'll avoid a mix-up, which has caused some quiet in the secondary market, honestly.
Very interesting, wrapping this up for us, Bankole Odusanya. Thank you so much, Head of Fixed Income at UBA Group. Thank you so much for clarifying what the central bank's October 23rd directive is all about. But the final one, is this directive already been implemented, or is it at a future date?
Come again.
This directive by the central bank preventing individuals and local corporate from investing in open market operations, but only in NTBs, has it taken off? Is it at a future date?
No, it's taken off. It was effective of the date of issuance of that communique.
Of the circular by the central bank. That's October the 23rd.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Have a
Yes.
great day and enjoy your weekend. Bankole Odusanya from FMDQ Exchange Place. Temple Ashaji is standing by the Nigerian Stock Exchange trading floor. Is wrapping up a very busy week it's been for him on the market streets. Temple, thank you so much. It's been a very busy week for you. Somewhere during the middle of the week, you started chasing that very big fire inferno around Martin Street, the Lagos big markets down there and all of that. Thank you so much for being there for us throughout this week. Yes. So so let me just give you a minute or two to review. We have just about that to wrap up the week. What's been the big stories on the market streets this week?
Well, some stories that keep coming in on the portal of the exchange, where we've seen a resignation of some executive directors on the board of some companies. The managing director of Omoluabi Mortgage Bank, the MD resigned. I think his tenure is done. He's been there for 5 years. He's been replaced now by one Mrs. Aworonke. We've also seen a similar development on the board of Law Union and Rock, where the compliance officer and of course the head of internal auditor also resigned. They're taking their leave. Ditto for Global Spectrum. One of the executive directors, non-executive director in this case, one Major Stanley, is also taking his leave. These three companies, the level of transactions we saw on all of them, which didn't so much impact on the prices this week. This whole resignation explains what has been happening, on this company and how it relates to the shares of this company. So that will at least help investors, traders on the floor here to take a proper decision going forward on these particular companies. That's what we know so far, Bosun.
Yes, this is something we'll try to shed more light on next week. If you look at the board changes at Dangote Flour, of course, that relates to the sale of that company to Crown Flour Mills. But again, we've seen some departure from some boards like Access Bank and Sindukwe left the board of Access Bank as well. We've seen a few more companies, even in the insurance sector, board changes of directors, independent, non-executive directors, executive directors. We've seen a bit of this also in Ella Lakes PLC over the last few weeks. So we'll talk about that next week. Thank you so much, Temple, for bringing the show to a close. Temple Ashaju, our business correspondent from the trading floor at the Stock Exchange. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend, and I'll see you again on Monday. Brattonell is a public holiday, but business never sleeps here on Channels Television.